The moment I think back to that afternoon, I can still hear the sharp voice of a white teenager echoing through Freshmart. This food isn't for people like you. Those words cut straight into my chest like a cold blade. And the bitter part is, he had no clue the man he just insulted was the commander of the entire Brookhaven Police Department. Right then, I asked myself, if 20 squad cars really showed up, would Victoria, his powerful mother, realize every single one of those officers worked under me? Before everything blew up, let me rewind. My name's David Johnson, 45 years old, recently appointed chief of police just 6 months ago. I moved to Silver Oaks, a suburban neighborhood on the north side of the city, about a 15-minute drive from downtown. People call Silver Oaks a slice of the American dream. Maple trees lined up neat, perfectly trimmed lawns, wide porches, and the American flag waving proudly outside every house. I didn't move here for a bigger house or a fancier neighborhood. I moved because I needed peace. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Sarah to a sudden illness. Since then, life felt empty. My job kept me busy, but coming home night after night to an empty apartment made it clear I needed a fresh start. Silver Oaks, with all its calm, seemed like the perfect place to breathe again. I still remember that first day in August. The Texas sun burned bright, the air heavy and hot. I wore an old t-shirt, plain jeans, kept things simple on purpose. I didn't want anyone to know who I was not yet. In my mind, keeping my identity quiet would let me see the community as just another neighbor, before I became the face of law and order in their eyes. Every morning, I jogged down the shady streets, taking in the faint scent of pine. I'd grab coffee at the little shop on Oakwood, sit by the window, and just watch people go by. For me, that was a rare kind of safety I hadn't felt in over 20 years on the force. But peace is often just a thin coat of paint. That's something I've learned wearing this badge. Every neighborhood has its unspoken rules, its self-appointed gatekeepers. And in Silver Oaks, that person was Victoria Miller. I didn't know her yet the day I stood in line at Freshmart with a basket full of organic veggies. I just wanted a simple dinner, a salad Sarah used to love. But in a blink, a cocky teenager showed up, yanked the bag of tomatoes from my hand, and threw out those words that froze the air around us. That moment was the spark that lit the storm. And me, just a new resident nobody knew was chief of police, was about to face a battle right in the place I'd chosen as my safe haven. Right after I set my basket on the checkout counter, I heard heavy footsteps behind me and a challenging cough. Before I could turn, a pale, confident hand shoved past my shoulder and snatched the bag of organic tomatoes the cashier had just scanned. "You don't need this fancy stuff," a kid said, his voice breaking but clear. "This stuff ain't for people like you." A chill ran through me for a second. He couldn't have been more than 16, skinny, bleached blonde hair, eyes flashing that same arrogant look I'd seen 100 times. The look of someone who'd never been told no. I drew a deep breath and tried to stay calm. 20 years on the force taught me that a quick reaction only makes things worse. I held out my hand and said, "Steady. Son, those are my tomatoes. Please give them back." Instead of handing them over, he took a step back and put on a show like I'd done something awful. His voice cut through the store. "Help! He's attacking me." Shoppers looked up. A few curious stares, some whispers. Most people just shook their heads and went back to picking milk and cereal. Maybe they were used to this kind of act. Then the sharp sound of heels hit the tile like metal. A blonde woman in a pencil skirt and a designer bag stormed in like a hurricane. It was Victoria Miller, the kid's mother. She immediately shielded her son, eyes blazing like I was a wanted criminal. With her other hand, she grabbed her phone and dialed like a reflex. 911. "This is an emergency. A big man is attacking my son at Freshmart on Oak Street. He's about 6 feet tall, extremely dangerous. Send 20 squad cars, no, 20 and SWAT. Now." For a few seconds, the store filled with her yelling. Some customers pulled out phones and started filming the whole act. I sighed quietly, pulled out my phone, hit record, and trained it on the scene. When I tried to explain, "Ma'am, your son just took my stuff and used racist words," Victoria snapped at me, full of contempt. "Shut up. People like you always play the victim. You don't belong in this neighborhood. I'm on the HOA board. I run things here. You'll regret showing up." Her words heated me. She thought the HOA was a weapon to erase people. I only smiled a little. "How funny," I said evenly. I just moved to Silver Oaks 2 weeks ago. Looks like we're neighbors. Victoria went pale in a heartbeat. Her son Ethan, who'd been acting tough, suddenly looked at his mother with fear. His confidence started to crack. I nodded at the cashier and calmly paid for the rest of my groceries. One tomato rolled out of the bag, hit the floor, and squashed like a bad omen. I picked it up, wiped it off, and walked out slowly. Behind me, Victoria ground her teeth. This isn't over. The cops are coming. You'll pay for this. As the late-day sun poured through the front window, I knew one thing. The real fight was just getting started. That night, as I drove back into Silver Oaks, the sunset painted the whole street in shades of red. Two-story houses with gray roofs lined up perfectly, lawns trimmed like carpets, shiny SUVs parked neatly in the driveways. It was the picture of suburban paradise most families dream about. But as I turned onto Magnolia, something stopped me cold. Victoria Miller, the same woman who'd been screaming for cops in the supermarket, was stepping out of a black SUV right in front of the house across from mine. For a second, she dropped her grocery bag onto the grass. A few boxes rolled away, but she didn't bother picking them up. She just froze, whispering, no way. Her eyes went wide, staring at me like she'd just seen a nightmare standing on her doorstep. I smiled a little, raised my hand. Beautiful evening, isn't it, neighbor? Her face shifted from pale to deep red, lips pressed tight. Ethan peeked from behind her, avoiding my gaze. They rushed to scoop up their things, slipped inside, and slammed the door shut. But I already knew whatever peace I thought I'd find in Silver Oaks was gone for good. The next morning, while I was watering the hydrangeas by my porch, a gentle voice came from over the left fence. Mr. Johnson, right? I'm Linda Parker. I live next door. Linda was a middle-aged woman, trim, kind face, but her eyes carried a hint of worry. She handed me a homemade pie, the smell of cinnamon and apples drifting up. You just moved in? I just wanted to welcome you. But she lowered her voice. You should be careful. Victoria Miller, she's not easy. She's already pushed 3 families out of here in just 2 years. I raised an eyebrow. For what reason? Linda sighed, like she was afraid even the fence might overhear. The first family was Mexican. She said they were too loud, not up to neighborhood standards. The second was a black couple. She spread rumors they weren't paying HOA dues. The third, just because they wouldn't cut their lawn the way she wanted. You get the picture. I stayed quiet. The pieces were starting to fit together. This wasn't about a tantrum in a grocery store. This was a whole pattern of behavior. Linda rested her hand on the fence, her voice steady and sincere. I don't know what you do for a living, but whatever it is, please keep your cool. Victoria has a way of draining people dry with trouble. I looked at her, nodded softly. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. As soon as Linda walked away, loud rock music blasted from across the street, shattering the quiet Silver Oaks morning. Victoria's curtains twitched open, just enough for me to see her shadow standing there, phone in hand, eyes burning in my direction. And inside me, instead of anger, a strange calm rose up. I knew exactly what I was dealing with. A self-proclaimed HOA warrior who thought her power could override the law. What Victoria didn't know was that I was the law in this city. Right in the first week, I felt open hostility from across Magnolia. The first night, at exactly 2 a.m., loud rock music blasted from speakers in the Miller yard. The wall of sound shook my bedroom windows. I drew the curtain and saw Victoria standing in her living room, wearing a silk robe, phone held high while she live-streamed. Her shrill voice carried over. This is a lesson for anyone who thinks they can move into Silver Oaks. We don't accept outsiders. I sighed, pulled out my phone, and started recording. Every second, every frame, I saved as evidence. At 3 a.m., a sharp thud hit my front door. I turned on the porch light. Eggs smashed against the white wood, yolks splattered down the frame. In the dark, I caught a glimpse of Ethan running back toward his yard, giggling and filming. At 4 a.m., all 3 of their dogs, 2 bulldogs and a chihuahua, accidentally got loose. They charged into my yard and ripped apart the hydrangea bed I'd planted just a week earlier. I saw Victoria on her porch, hands clasped behind her back, pretending to call out. Oh no, how did they get over here? Naughty pups. But she didn't step down. She just kept filming, like she was ready to use the footage as proof it was an accident. The next morning, while I was cleaning up the mess, Linda quietly came over to help. She put on gloves, picked up eggshells, and whispered, "They've started. You should brace yourself, David." Every time Victoria wants a family out, the script is the same: smear, harass, then spread rumors in the HOA. I answered calmly, still holding the hose as I rinsed the stains away. "I know how to gather evidence. This time she'll leave a trail." Linda looked at me for a moment, like she was trying to guess who I really was. Then she just nodded and didn't ask more. The next night, a new attack came. Ethan, thinking he was clever, sneaked into my yard with a baseball bat. He smashed an outdoor camera and cheered like he'd won, then spray-painted hateful slurs on my garage door that made your skin crawl. What Ethan didn't know was that the camera he broke was bait. I'd hidden 4 real cameras in the porch light, the mailbox, the doorbell, and a decorative rock. Every act of vandalism, from the bat swing to the ugly words, was captured in sharp detail. Worse for them, Ethan filmed himself and posted it on an anonymous social account while forgetting to turn off GPS. Watching the footage in my study, I felt calmer than I'd felt in years. I knew I was playing a long game, while Victoria thought this was some playground intimidation. That night I got a call from Linda. Her voice was low. "Mr. Johnson, I'm guessing Victoria still doesn't know who you are, right?" I smiled to myself and said, "Right. And I want to keep it that way a little longer. Let her keep digging her own hole." I hung up and stored all the evidence on a secure server. In my head, there was one thought. Victoria thinks she's playing chess, but she's only been moving plastic pieces. I've spent my life in games where the stakes are real. Then, from the porch across the street, I heard a bitter line carried over. "Johnson, you won't last here. I'll turn the whole neighborhood against you." I stood still and looked at her shadow behind the curtain. Inside me, I felt a cold calm. "Go ahead, Victoria. I'm ready." Right after that string of harassment failed, Victoria hit back harder. She sent urgent emails to every resident in Silver Oaks, plastered flyers on the community board, even knocked on doors. The message was simple: the new man who moved in is a threat to our safety and property values. Come to the HOA meeting to decide what to do. On Thursday night, the community room was packed. Folding chairs lined up in rows, fluorescent lights lighting faces that were curious and worried. I sat in the back row, cap pulled low, watching quietly. At the front, Richard Collins, the HOA president, fidgeted behind the table. He's a man in his 70s, thin, gray-haired, and clearly didn't want to be in the middle of this. Beside him sat Victoria in a dark office dress, holding papers and running the slideshow. A slide flashed up in bright red letters: "The Johnson issue." "Thank you for coming," Victoria began, voice shaking but theatrical. "We face a serious threat. The new man David Johnson, no one knows who he really is. He attacked my son in the supermarket, and since then my family has lived in fear." At her cue, Ethan in the front row stood up, head bowed in fake fear. He looked really scary, he stammered. "I thought he was going to hit me." People murmured and some frowned. Victoria clicked to the next slide, a covert photo of me watering my plants. "Here," she pointed. "He's always on the porch, staring, taking notes, watching. Who knows what he's planning?" I moved that the board open special proceedings to expel him from Silver Oaks. "We must protect our children and our property values." Hands went up in support. Someone in the middle row whispered, "House prices could drop if this gets out." Another added, "We don't want bad publicity." I sat still, my heart steady. Time had come. I stood, took off my cap, and my calm voice filled the room. "Sorry to interrupt, but since I'm the Johnson issue we're talking about, I think I have the right to speak." The room gasped. All eyes turned to me. Victoria's face went from confident to panicked in an instant. "I didn't invite you," she shouted. "HOA rules are clear. Every resident has the right to attend an open meeting," I said, looking straight at Richard. Richard cleared his throat. "That's right. Fairness is fairness." I stepped forward and plugged my phone into the projector. "If Victoria's showing evidence, I'll do the same." The first slide played, the Freshmart video. Ethan yanking the tomato bag, his racist words, then the "help me" act echoing through the store. The room went silent, except for Victoria's 911 call blasting from the speakers. "Send 20 squad cars," and SWAT. A young woman whispered, "Oh my God, she made it up." I clicked the next video. Ethan with a baseball bat smashing a fake camera, then spray painting hateful slurs on my garage. There's Victoria on the porch with her arms crossed, watching clearly in frame. A few people jumped up, mouths open. A middle-aged man muttered, "I can't believe I supported her." Victoria went pale, voice breaking. "This is fake. Deep fake tech. He's framing me." But Richard couldn't keep calm. He slammed the gavel down once. "Victoria, what we just saw is very serious. If true, the board could be liable for enabling misbehavior." The room erupted. Some residents who'd wavered now turned on Victoria, whispering criticisms. Linda, in the back row, gave me a small, relieved smile. I stood in the eye of that storm and said one line. "This is only the beginning." I suggest everyone think hard about who really threatens Silver Oaks. The morning after the meeting, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Texts, emails, links from Linda, everything pointed to new posts on the local social feeds. Victoria Miller had launched an open smear campaign. She posted photos of me watering plants, shot from her window, captioned, "A dangerous man prowling Silver Oaks. Protect our kids." In the community Facebook group she wrote, "He's a stranger, could be dealing drugs out of his garage. I heard he has a criminal past. Who knows if he's hiding weapons?" Reading it, I didn't know whether to be angry or laugh. It was so over the top that if it weren't dangerous, it'd be laughable. But I know how rumors work once they're out. They spread faster than the truth. Worse, Victoria bribed a local clickbait blogger. I accidentally caught that call because my security system recorded everything she said on her porch. "I'll pay $2,000 in cash. Just write that Johnson has a criminal past. Nobody checks. People will believe it, he's different." Her voice was sharp, calculating. This time I had airtight proof, audio and video. Meanwhile, Ethan, her son, kept playing the perfect accomplice. On an anonymous account, he posted videos bragging about the egging, the paint, even wrote, "We'll make him run away like the others." He thought he was clever keeping the account private. He forgot one small fatal detail: location tagging. Every video was tagged right in front of the Miller house. I saved it all and moved the files to the department's secure servers. The file grew thicker by the day, like a journal accusing those who felt untouchable. But the online campaign started to hit real life. That afternoon, I noticed neighbors avoid my eyes as I walked by. A man with a dog crossed the street when he saw me. At the playground, a mother quietly pulled her kid away when I came near. Linda called, her voice tight. "Victoria's got them by the strings. Some actually believe you're dangerous. I heard them talking about home values dropping if you stay." I sat by the window as afternoon light fell through the maples. I'm used to suspicion police work brings that, but this was different. This wasn't just a job. This was the home I'd chosen to find some peace. My phone buzzed again. A text from the deputy chief. "Sir, the city council's asking questions. Someone's calling for an inquiry into you. We're waiting orders." I typed slowly, "No action. Let them dig. The deeper they go, the bigger the hole." Night fell over Silver Oaks. I watched Victoria's porch glow from my window, the blue light of her screen on her face, as she furiously typed more poison into the web. In that moment, I realized she thought she was winning. But every post, every video, every slanderous line was piling another brick on the road to her fall. All I had to do was be patient and wait for the right moment. The day of the press conference came with clear skies, but in Silver Oaks the air felt heavy, like right before a storm. Brookhaven City Hall had announced, Police Chief David Johnson will address community safety issues at 3 p.m. Victoria wasted no time twisting it into her own version. "Finally, the city's listening to me. We're about to expose that dangerous neighbor." By 2:30, City Hall was packed. Reporters lined the room with cameras and mics crammed together. In the front row, Victoria sat with about 10 supporters, holding handmade signs, "Protect Silver Oaks," and "Kick out the stranger." I entered through the side door in full dress uniform, metal shining under the lights. The sound of my shoes on marble silenced the whole room. And right as I reached the podium, Victoria shot up, pointed straight at me, her voice shrill. "That's him. Arrest him now. He's the one I've been warning you about." The place erupted in whispers. A few cameras swung toward her. A security officer moved in, but I raised my hand. "That won't be necessary." I adjusted the mic, scanning the crowd. "Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Today, I want to share a few events that have taken place in Silver Oaks over the last 2 weeks." Down below, Victoria flushed red, yelling, "He's an imposter. Where's the real chief? Why let him stand here? I smiled calmly and hit the projector. The big screen lit up with the first video. Ethan snatching the tomato bag in Fresh Mart, spitting out racist words. Then his fake help me act. Victoria's 911 call blared through the speakers. Send 20 squad cars and SWAT too. The room held its breath. Cameras panned slowly across stunned faces. Next video, Ethan smashing a decoy camera, spray painting slurs, while Victoria stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching. Her laugh echoed clear. Then the audio recording played. 2,000 in cash. Just write that Johnson has a criminal past. Nobody will check. People will believe it, he's different. Her voice cut sharp, cold. The audience gasped. A reporter muttered, "My God, she just destroyed herself." Victoria flailed, "It's fake. Deep fake. He's framing me." But her voice cracked, stripped of all power. I paused, slipped my hand into my jacket. The room went silent. Then I pulled out a polished badge and set it down on the podium with a loud metallic thud. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said slowly, my voice steady through the mic. 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Miller demanded 20 police cars to handle one innocent man. Today, allow me to introduce that man. I am Police Chief David Johnson of Brookhaven. The room exploded. Reporters raised cameras, flashes popping like fireworks. Up front, Victoria's jaw dropped as she collapsed into her chair. Ethan went pale, sweating, whispering, "Mom, you told me he was just a nobody." I continued, firm and clear. For 2 weeks, the Miller family harassed, slandered, vandalized, and incited hate. And I have the evidence. This isn't just civil misconduct. This is criminal. I gave the signal. 2 officers stepped forward, cuffed Ethan, and read him his rights. Another team moved to Victoria, who trembled, stammering, No, I'm on the HOA board, I run the neighborhood." A reporter chuckled, and soon laughter rippled through the room. Someone said out loud, "She just called the cops on the chief of police. That'll be headline news all week." As Victoria was escorted out, I closed the conference with one final line. Justice never sleeps. Silver Oaks and this city deserve a community that's safe and fair, not a place where hate can live. Applause thundered through the hall, blending with the clicking of cameras, sealing the moment truth came to light. Less than 24 hours after the press conference at City Hall, Victoria Miller's name was plastered across every headline in the country. From CNN to local news, they all ran the same line. Woman calls cops to arrest the police chief himself. The video of her screaming in the supermarket, then collapsing when the truth came out, spread like wildfire. Millions of shares, hundreds of thousands of mocking comments. One TikTok account turned her line, "Send 20 squad cars and SWAT too," into a remix that racked up over 50 million views in just 2 days. While the internet laughed, real life came crashing down on her. The luxury real estate firm where she worked released a statement. "We do not tolerate discrimination or false reports." Victoria Miller is terminated effective immediately. Overnight, she went from selling million-dollar homes to being unemployed. The law didn't wait either. The district attorney charged her with 4 counts: filing a false emergency report, aggravated harassment, making threats, and conspiracy to defame. Her lawyer tried to bargain to keep her out of jail, but the price was steep: 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and $50,000 in fines. When sentencing her, the judge didn't hold back. "You wanted the police involved? Fine. Now you'll report to them every week for the next 2 years." Her son Ethan didn't escape either. Juvenile court handed him 90 days in a youth facility, plus 500 hours of community service. His school record was stamped with discipline that killed any dream of getting into a top university. During the hearing, Ethan broke down, blaming his mom. "She made me do it. She said if I didn't help, she'd take away my car, my phone. She told me we had to protect the neighborhood." The judge answered firmly, "You're 16, old enough to know spraying hate on someone's garage is wrong. You made a choice, and now you face the consequences." Silver Oaks itself shook. The HOA called an emergency meeting. Victoria wasn't invited this time. The vote was quick, unanimous removal. Even her old allies turned their backs. One muttered on the way out, "She embarrassed this whole community." Home values are what really took the hit. Her downfall spilled into her personal life too. Neighbors avoided her. People who once laughed and chatted crossed the street instead. Someone taped a note to her gate above the Chihuahua. The dog's innocent. You're not. A month later, the bank foreclosed. The house across from me went up for sale. 6 months later, a black doctor's family moved in. Linda called, her voice half amused, half sharp. You'd laugh if you saw her face at the post office. The woman who once shouted this neighborhood isn't for them now has to watch a happy black family move into her old house. Online, the humiliation never stopped. Someone built a video game called Karen vs. Chief, where the player dodges ridiculous 911 calls. Ethan's fall at City Hall turned into a meme with goofy music. In just 1 year, Victoria went from HOA queen to a national punchline. Even her GoFundMe page titled Victim of a Setup pulled in only $3.50, all from Ethan sneaking in a donation. From my office, I watched it all unfold with calm. I wasn't gloating. My job wasn't to destroy a person, but to remind a community that justice still means something. But in private moments, I'll admit hearing Victoria shriek for 20 squad cars always makes me smile when I replay it. A year had passed since the name Victoria Miller became a national joke. Silver Oaks was quiet again. The maples on Magnolia Street had changed leaves twice, and I still kept my routine morning runs past the comm porches. One spring afternoon, I stopped by the city park to check on a work crew doing community service. Among the orange vests, a familiar face appeared, thinner, worn down, but instantly recognizable: Ethan Miller. He kept his head down picking up trash, hands shaking when he suddenly saw me. His eyes went wide, then filled with tears in seconds. He dropped the trash picker, stammering, "Chief Johnson, I'm sorry." The tears spilled fast, the once arrogant face twisted like a lost child. I was stupid. I was a coward. I did what Mom told me, but I still made the choice. I destroyed my future. Now no school will take me. Nobody believes in me. I stood silent for a few beats, looking straight at the teenager in front of me. The bitterness and anger from a year ago gave way to something else: pity. Not pity for the punishment, but because I could see he still had a chance if he took it. I stepped closer, my voice low but firm. "Ethan, your mom planted hate in you. But the graffiti, the ugly words, the harassment, that was your choice. And now you live with the consequences. But the future isn't gone. It's just harder." I pulled out my wallet, slid out a card, and handed it to him. "This is the Second Chance Youth Program. They help young people who messed up rebuild, learn a trade, get a job, even find a way back to school. But Ethan, don't think of this as a gift. It's a responsibility. If you don't change for real, this card means nothing." He stared at it like it was a lifeline. His shaky hand clutched it tight, his voice breaking. Why would you help me after everything I did to you?" I looked him in the eye and said, "Because hate is taught, but change can be learned too. You can prove it's possible, or you can prove some people choose not to change. That choice is yours." Ethan nodded over and over, tears dripping onto his orange vest. "I won't waste it. I'll try." I turned away without waiting for more thanks. Because redemption isn't in tears. It isn't in promises. It's in action. On the way home, the evening sun stretched across the rooftops of Silver Oaks. And for the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope. Even in the rubble of hate, sometimes a new seed can still grow. That summer, Silver Oaks held its first community cookout since the whole ordeal. The park lawn was alive with laughter, the smell of barbecue drifting in the breeze. Kids of every color ran around, sharing red, white, and blue balloons. I stood behind the grill, flipping burgers, quietly taking it all in the kind of peace I once thought was out of reach. Linda walked over with a glass of lemonade and pointed to the end of the line. I followed her gaze and saw Ethan. He wore a plain t-shirt, his smile a little awkward but real as he handed a plate of food to a little black girl. She giggled, "Thanks." Ethan nodded back, his eyes carrying something I'd never seen in him a year ago: humility. Linda whispered, "He's been volunteering at the food bank for weeks now. I think he's really trying." I gave a small nod, not to erase the past, but to acknowledge that maybe a seed of change had finally taken root. And Victoria? She wasn't there. Word was she still lived somewhere in the city, bouncing between extremist groups online, ranting about replacement and lost privilege. But the truth was, she no longer had a voice in Silver Oaks. Her old house now echoed with the laughter of a black doctor's family, a bitter irony I'm sure she felt every time she passed by. As the cookout wound down, a boy about 7 tugged at my shirt. His eyes shined as he blurted out, "Mr. Johnson, my mom says you're a hero. You beat the mean lady." I knelt so we were eye to eye, smiling gently. "No, I'm not a hero. The real courage belongs to those who change when they know they're wrong. I just did my job." The boy nodded like he'd just learned something big, then ran off, leaving me standing there with country music drifting from a small speaker. That night, in my study, I pulled out a photo of Sarah, my late wife. Looking at her smile in that frame, I whispered, "You were right. The high road always leads where it should. It's not always easy, but light will beat the dark." I turned off the lamp, ending the long day with one truth heavy in my heart. Never judge someone by their skin or how they look. No HOA or neighborhood board stands above justice. Hate can be taught, but so can change. And the story of Victoria Miller is proof. She once demanded 20 squad cars to come after me. In the end, she got exactly that, only they came to take her away.